The Vatican says Pope Francis is more unwell than yesterday as he continues treatment for pneumonia in both his lungs. The 6 Israeli hostages released by Hamas as part of the ceasefire deal have come home to emotional welcomes from their families. However, the exchange of 600 Palestinians held in Israeli prisons has been delayed. Ukraine's President Zelensky calls for Europe to have a seat at the negotiating table to help end the war with Russia. The final day of campaigning's underway in Germany ahead of a general election on Sunday. And an appeal to find an antique violin that was stolen from a pub in London earlier this week.
6 more Israeli hostages are due to be freed in Gaza this morning. It comes after the family of the dead hostage, Shiri Bibas, says the body which Hamas delivered on Friday is hers.
Donald Trump has said that President Zelensky and President Putin will have to get together to end the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Donald Trump says his French and British counterparts have done nothing to end the war in Ukraine ahead of their visits to Washington. The Red Cross says it's transferred a body to the Israeli authorities, which Hamas said was that of the hostage Shiri Bibas. And Apple pulls its highest level of privacy protection for customers in the UK after a row with the government over security. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has dismissed the city's fire department chief over her handling of January's Palisades fires. It comes after weeks of tension between the two officials. The chief criticised the mayor when the fires first began, saying she had failed the city. Dozens of people were killed, hundreds of homes were destroyed. Ronnie Villanueva, a retired LA fire chief deputy of emergency operations, has been now appointed as the interim chief. For more than a decade, West Africa has been in the grip of an opioid crisis. Thousands of lives have been ruined by powerful and illegal pills packaged as medicines and sold on the streets. But no one has ever exposed the pharmaceutical executives behind the deadly trade. BBC has been investigating the companies which are making and shipping these pills and the men that profit from addiction. China reassured South Africa on Friday that Beijing will remain a trustworthy and reliable ally. It comes as tensions between Washington and Pretoria persist. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that he would not attend the G20 foreign ministers meeting being hosted by South Africa this week. His absence linked to the Trump administration's objections to South Africa's land appropriation law and its genocide case against Israel at the ICJ. You can't take our country and you can't take our game. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's message on X as his country emerged victorious against the United States at the Four Nations face-off final match in Boston. The game was drawn at 2-2 and then Canada scored in overtime. The tournament came amid political tensions between the US and Canada. And ahead of the game, the White House press secretary joked about what she called the soon-to-be 51st state. Justin Trudeau among the fans, as you can see here, celebrating that goal and the win on Thursday night. Well, senior NHL writer for The Athletic, Mark Lazarus, told me about the significance of the match.
I mean, that became the story of the tournament. This exhibition tournament that was supposed to be a precursor to the Olympics next year turned into this political hotbed because of Donald Trump's rhetoric towards Canada, calling it the 51st state. You know, whether he was mocking their sovereignty or outright threatening it, Canada took it personally. And in the early games in Montreal, the American national anthem was booed heavily. At the games in Boston, including the final, Chantel, a Canadian pop star, changed the lyrics of the "O Canada" to "Only Us Command" instead of "In All of Us Command." Everywhere you looked, there was politics. Donald Trump called the American team before the game. The players, the GM of the American team, invited Donald Trump to the game. This became very much about Donald Trump and less about the hockey.